Hey everyone, it's Lexie. So in today's video I'll be sharing with you my favorite books of 2019. So 2019 was a really good reading year. I think I read 63 books this year, 63, 64. I don't really know, but it was within the 60s, so I did pretty good actually. And I feel like a lot of this year, like in 2019, I did a really good job at tackling my TBR and getting it down to maybe just a handful of books. So I'm really proud about that, and I want to keep up that momentum going into 2020. So these are my favorite books. When I was going through my bullet journal, these are the ones that really stood out to me in terms of like just overall like enjoyment of the story. So actually, surprisingly, there are no historical fictions in here, which is really interesting. I would include Lilac Girls, which was really good, but this was the second time I read it, and I don't include books that I've reread. These are like new reads that I read in 2019, so that one would have been included if I had read it for the first time. But these, nevertheless, like, these are the ones that I read for the first time. And actually, I think only two of them are standalones. All of these were series related one way or another. So the 2019 was the year of series for whatever reason. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So starting out, I first have The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. This is a book that I read back in January and I fell in love with it. This was one that was on my TBR, or like my wish list, for a while, but the price of this book was just a little bit too high, so I was happy that I got it for Christmas in 2018. So basically, I love Kristen Hanna, and this is her newest release that takes place in Alaska during the 70s, who's like, it follows a young girl growing up, and her family has a lot of struggles. There's domestic violence and all other themes in here, and so their father decides that they're gonna move up to Alaska and all their problems will be solved, but when they're there, kind of things heightened and it goes off from there. But I love this. I loved how atmospheric this was. I could totally picture the Alaskan wilderness. I love how that was in itself a character as well. I thought it was very well done in that aspect, and I really loved the themes it tackled. It did a really good job at showing it through as the main character grows up, how she kind of views it, and she's not really sure what she's seeing when she's younger, and then as she grows up she realizes where it is. And I feel like this book did a really good job at tackling that hard subject matter. Next, I have Killman Creek, which is the sequel to Stillhouse Lake by Rachel Kane, and this is the second book in the series. The first book I kind of struggled with, like the first 50 pages or so. I was like, I don't really like this, but it ended, like the ending of that was really intense, and this one kind of takes off from where the ending was, and I enjoyed this one so much more. It's very dark, twisted. It follows a serial killer and his family that have to deal with the aftermath of kind of being related to a convicted serial killer, and this one was so intense. It was sorry, I'm still recovering from my cough. It was intense. It was just really dark and twisted, and it was very much like a Criminal Minds, like, especially in this one here. Like, everything gets turned up, like the stakes are a lot higher this time around, and I loved how dark and just twisted it was, and this is definitely a series that I've grown to love in 2019. Next, I have Vow of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson, which is the concluding novel in the Dance of Thieves duology, which is the spin-off series to the Remnant Chronicles, and this series is near and dear to my heart. It's probably one of my favorite YA fantasy series of all time, and so I was really excited when the concluding novel in this spin-off duology would be coming out. It lived up to all of my expectations and then some. I really love this one. It perfectly paced. It was just a lot of fun to read, and it ended, like the last chapter ended on like a cliffhanger. I'm hoping there will be a spin-off to this spin-off because of the kind of thing that it alluded to happening in like the last chapter, or like the last page basically. So I'm very excited about that. I think it will be really interesting. I love this world. I love these characters. I love the character development. We get to see some familiar faces in here as well. So like I said, I was really happy with how the series ended. So this was actually one of my book club picks for 2019, which was Pretty Girls by Karen Slaughter. This was the first Karen Slaughter book that I read, and I was not disappointed. I heard so many great things about Karen Slaughter and her writing, so I was really excited reading this. But it follows two sisters that have a falling out after their oldest sister disappeared and was never found, and then due to a series of events they're kind of forced to kind of work together. But yeah, this one again was very dark and twisted. It was yeah, so this one was very dark and twisted. I loved it was very gory and graphic, and I loved kind of the mystery aspect in here. And as well, even though I kind of like figured it out early on, I still really enjoyed it. I didn't feel like the book struggled from a lot of pacing issues. It was just overall a very good read, and I definitely want to pick up more of her books in the future. So this one is just like the series in general, and this is one that I marathoned in 2019 minus the first one, but it was the Erica Foster series by Robert Bryzenda, and I love this one. Like I said, I read all the books back to back to back during the summer, and I loved it. I felt like that was the way to read it. I could stay engrossed in this world and the characters, and what I really love about this series in particular is not only the main protagonist in here, Erica. I think she's a very complex character, and you get to see a lot of her growth throughout the series, but I also really love how this author is able to make the books very incredibly fast-paced from the get-go. The chapters are very short, and so it keeps the plot moving, and that's what I really like about this series in particular. I feel like this author really stands out in that aspect. So if you're looking to like kind of try out the crime genre, I recommend starting out with his series because it is a little bit more modern compared to some of like the classical ones like the Rizzoli and Isles, the Kay Scarpetta ones. So like it's a little bit more modern in that sense, but it's also fast-paced, so I think this is a good series to start out with. And like I said, this was probably one of my favorite series that I binged this year, so I was very happy about that. So this was the latest book in the Sydney Parnell series, and it was Ambush by Barbara Nicholas. This one was so good. I loved it. This is probably, next to the newer series coming out, this one is probably my favorite of the modern crime series, and I just love it. It's such an interesting concept. It follows a ex-Marine who starts out working as a detective, or within the police of the train systems in Colorado, and her sidekick is her a former canine dog from Afghanistan that she knew. And this one basically deals with the things that are alluded to in her past and something that happened in Afghanistan. It kind of deals with that and the mysteries, and there's something else going on. So this one kind of deals with that, and there is such a big plot twist in here. So I'm really, like I said, I love this. All the books in here, the 3 books that have been out, I've thoroughly enjoyed, and I've given 5 out of 5 stars. So this is another good one to start with as well. But yeah, I can't wait for the next one in the series. Like I said, each book gets better and better, and I'm interested to see the direction the next one takes. So this is one that took me by surprise, and it was the Year One trilogy by Nora Roberts. I read the extent of this trilogy in 2019, and I was blown away by this. So this wouldn't have been one that I would have picked up for myself, but my aunt gave this as a gift for me in 2018 at Christmas time, and I've read a couple of Nora Roberts books and I enjoyed them, so I was gonna step outside my comfort zone and give this one a try. And basically it takes place in our world, and it deals with Nora Roberts' magic system. So if you're familiar with that, I think you'll kind of understand this. But basically there is this dark magic plague that wipes out 2/3 of the world's population within a matter of days, and those that are immune to this disease are those who have magic in them. So you can see how that can cause a lot of problems. It can lead to anarchy and all this stuff. But this one really sets up the world, and then it kind of takes off after after the first book. But I really loved this series. I do plan on rereading this. I don't know if I'll reread it in 2020 or in 2021, so I won't remember as many details, but this is definitely a highlight of 2019. And like I said, I cannot stress this enough. This book was just so good. I highly recommend this trilogy. So I ended up reading the last 2 books in this trilogy, and it is the Bear and the Nightingale trilogy by Katherine Arden. I read the last two books in 2019 and I really enjoyed it. The first one I read in 2018 and it was a little bit slow to start, but I really loved this series. I really loved the world, and so I kind of pushed through, and the series really takes off after the first one, and I really loved the characters in here. I loved the world, and this is definitely a series that I could see myself binging, like I said, with year one, so maybe not this year but the year after. Like, that's how much I enjoyed it. But it's totally atmospheric in terms of her writing style. You're totally drawn in. You can totally picture yourself in the Russian wilderness. You grow really attached to the characters, and especially the main character in here. You get to see her grow basically from when she's born to when she matures into a young woman. So I really loved seeing that over the course of the two books that I've read in here, and the series did not disappoint. I thought it did a really good job at concluding this series and the world and the characters, and definitely it's something that I want to revisit in the future. And lastly, I then have Supernova by Marissa Meyer, which is the concluding novel in the Renegades trilogy, and this was again something that was outside of my comfort zone, a little bit different than what I generally tend to read, but I've been a big fan of Marissa Meyer's in the past. I have loved almost all her books, The Lunar Chronicles, Heartless, all of those, so I was really excited for this one. But it's kind of like The Incredibles, where people have superpowers and then they can kind of go and, like, kind of back in the day there was a fight between people with superpowers. They're very much split on where they should stand within society. Some people say, like, we shouldn't be the ones with powers, and then the other ones say we should be the one, like, kind of policing everything and the one in power. And so the people that won were the the ones that said that the people with superpowers should be the ones in political power and all that. So it follows Nova, who is a renegade, so someone who lost during the war when she was a kid, and so she kind of goes undercover to infiltrate kind of people with power, and it kind of goes off from there. But I really like how this book tackled the, like, kind of concluded everything. For the first, like, two books, specifically with Adrian and Nova, it's very black or white for them, and it's right or wrong in their viewpoints. But then in this one, you really get to see them understand that everything is like a shade of gray, and they're very much kind of torn with the kind of dilemmas that they have to deal with. It's not so easy now making this decision, so I really like how it talked about that, and just how it's even though it's different than what I tend to read, it was something that I really enjoyed, and being in this world, it was just a lot of fun. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below what books were your favorite this year and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.